advocate, she enjoys living outside the box. After some incredibly painful experiences, Dawn decided to use that pain for purpose and started the journey of discovering her limitless potential in a world full of infinite possibilities. By changing the way she looked at things, the things she looked at changed. Please welcome the amazing Dawn McElmoy. Is it working?
Come here. Sit. Down. Look. Down. Of course she doesn't want to behave. All right. Hopefully she'll just stay there. Okay. So my talk is called Becoming Yourself. But now that I think about it, I probably should have called it Bad Decisions Made Me Smart. Especially going roller skating with your 10-year-old granddaughter. You know, you end up showing her that at almost 50 you don't bounce anymore, you break. So my story begins like most people. I was born like everyone else. Then I had a brother. He came around 11 months younger. He's 11 months younger than me. Very nervous right now. So, right from the very beginning, I kind of got swept aside and taught that I wasn't good enough because I was the girl. So even though I was old enough, a lot of the attention went to my brother. So for a very long time, I got conditioned right from start that being a girl meant I was less than. So I was always trying to do things to impress my dad or whatever. My mom was an alcoholic, so that was a whole other story. We ended up resolving it later. I have a beautiful story over here, a few copies that I wrote for Beautiful Disaster, and it tells about how I reconciled everything with my mother eventually before she passed away. So, my quest, like I always trying to fix cars with my dad, you know, going fishing, doing all the things my brother did so my dad would pay attention to me. Well, that didn't really work. And then I found boys. Well, I wanted to be a people pleaser because, you know, in my family I wasn't wanted and needed, so I needed to feel wanted and needed, which led me to wanting to please everyone and then losing myself completely. I had no idea who I was because I just wanted to be what everyone wanted me to be. I wanted to make them happy. So over the course of years, I lost myself trying to make everyone else happy. Well, then I got the bright idea to join the military. So I was 18 years old. I was just getting out of high school, grade 12. I hadn't done my grade 13 yet. Went off to basic training, and then went to my first, can't even think right now, where I was going for my training, and it ended up I got assaulted. And I reported it, and then I was charged because they took me to the male barracks. Well, my career didn't last long. I'd say I got a PhD in hard knocks in 23 months. But it taught me a lot of things that I didn't learn until 20 years later. So I left the military, I had my first son, got married, had another son, but I could never let this go. I kept calling the press, calling different people. I wrote a story about it because I went back to high school and got my grade 13 English after I got out of the military. And I didn't know what to do with it, and then finally I met another girl. We had the same story. And we're like, if there's two of us, there's gotta be way more. So we went to McLean's, and I ended up on the front cover of a national magazine in 1998 with the word rape beside my head. It said rape in the military. This was way before anyone was willing to talk about this stuff. It's in 1998. But I wanted people to not feel alone. The thing was, for over 20 years, I felt alone, extremely alone, just because I wanted other people to not feel alone. So I put myself out there, but because people weren't ready for it yet, I got extreme hate. I got told I was the worst thing to happen to the Canadian military. I was a black mark on Canadian society. I got reinforced that my chief, when everything happened to me, he told me I was nobody, I was nothing, and I was going nowhere in life, and that he didn't want to be in the military to have to deal with little bitches like me. And I was like, okay, well, I didn't ask for this, right? So we went forward. I got hate. For 20 years, I thought I did a bad thing. I raised 2 sons. not valuing myself, not thinking I was worthy, and thinking that I honestly did a bad thing by coming forward. So around 2014, McLean's told another story. There was a brave French girl, Stephanie Raymond, came forward and told her story of what was happening to her. And the French version of McLean's wrote a story, and then McLean's picked up on it and wrote Our Nation's Disgrace. Well, Stephanie's on the cover, but they decided to retell my story again in the middle. And I had no idea. I just had people calling me going, I didn't know you were that girl. And I went and bought it, and there's my whole story again. And I'm like, oh no. But then they started to actually do something. So Madam Justice Marie Deschamps wrote a report, and she came out with numerous recommendations that they said they were going to implement. This was in 2015. Then in 2017, or maybe it was 16, there was a class action lawsuit started for members of the military and for sexual misconduct and harassment. There was a whole process to this. I wasn't one of the I wasn't one of the starters, but I was involved in it. There were 20,000 applications to that class action lawsuit when all the claims closed up. I can't see how I was the problem when there's 20,000 other people applying, right, to the lawsuit. So while great things are happening, nothing really happened until scandal broke out and the top dog got in hot water. And then all of a sudden, now there's changes happening. Bill C-77 is the victim rights bill in the military. It was passed in 2019. They still haven't done anything with it. Now, we'll get back to my story. That's enough of that stuff. So through my life and I married 3 narcissists, not valuing myself, not thinking I was worthy, and just generally not accepting the love that I thought I deserved. Because for some reason, I thought I deserved very little. So just barely enough. I ended up with alcoholics and guys that didn't have jobs because maybe I had a little bit of white knight syndrome and I wanted to save them too. It doesn't just happen to men, they want to go save women. Sometimes women want to save men. I had that issue. I had to break that. So I wrote these little notes. My granddaughter could probably do a PowerPoint, but I can't yet. So when I went back to university in 2016 and I had to do digital videos, and I had to get a tutor, and she was 20, and she's like, oh, I've been doing this since grade 3. And I looked at her and I go, that's why I can handwrite a report and you can't. And she goes, yeah, you're right. Because they don't even teach handwriting anymore, cursive. So I was I had to reframe everything that I've ever looked at and change the way I thought about it. I went after I got out of the university, or after I got out of the military, I had my 1 son, got married, had another son. And then when I left my husband, I was like, what am I going to do with myself now? Well, I'd always wanted to be a doctor. And I thought, well, I can't do that. So, I will become a nurse. So I had to go back to high school, again, at 28 years old, and get my grade 11 chemistry so that I could get into nursing school. And so I raised those 2, and I keep losing track of my thoughts. I speak from the heart, but I'm so nervous today. It's just going in. So reframing everything. After I left them, I went back to school. I became a nurse. I had to go to university. 2 small boys. They were when I left, they were 4 and 7. Got into university. So worked full time, single mom. And I did that 4 years of university. I did nursing school, but I didn't finish with the best mark. I had those where I got some 80s and then some 56s. But I had 2 little boys at home, so for some reason in my head, because of all of my other conditioning, I thought I failed. So yeah, I have that pretty nursing degree on the wall, but I only got 65 in my average at the end. I'm I can't get into masters unless I write a note or a letter. So I didn't do well. And everything I ever did, I thought of it as a failure. But about 4 years ago, I was with my last 3rd husband, and I got woke up, but it wasn't a kiss from a prince. It was via cell phone to the side of the head, right? But it was there's got to be something better than this. These abusive men, these people that put me down, using me as an object. and I met this friend, and it was a guy, and he was just opening a clothing business, and he'd had a really hard life, been judged, and he stood before me like a mirror. And for the very first time in my life, I finally saw myself. And I saw that some of those things I thought were failures, they weren't failures, they were accomplishments. I mean, I went to university with 2 kids, worked full time, and still did it. That's an accomplishment, right? But I had convinced myself because of marking systems that I had failed. So, this is longer than I'm used to. Usually like 5 minutes and I get to like. So, anyways, I started to look, after I met my friend Harley, I looked at a lot of things in my life. I started to write again. And I wrote, instead of writing like my failures, I wrote accomplishments. So I ended up with 3 pages of accomplishments. I'll be honest here, I was comparing myself to my brother. And I was like, well, you know, he didn't even get high school. What did I get? And I started writing all of this, and I was like, whoa, I've actually done some stuff. Like, I got high school, I joined the military, I've got a university degree, I owned my own home for 16 years till my last husband scared me so bad I had to sell it and run for my life. But hey, now I'm rebuilding. And in this rebuilding, I am turning everything around. So, like, I'm always going back to my chief looking at me saying, you're nobody, you're nothing, and you're never going to go anywhere, and you're not going nowhere in life. So in the last little bit, when I've been reframing everything, I thought, well, you know, he said I'm nobody. It's true. I'm nobody. I'm nobody. Because I'm not my body. I'm more than my body. I'm more than me. I'm a spirit living in this body, so he can call me nobody. I reframed it.
Amen.
Right? He said I was nothing. Right? You know, as a 19-year-old girl, had just went through so much trauma and was being blamed for it, I believed him. For years, I was nothing. Well, now, he can call me nothing if he wants, because I have no thing. I have worth. I have value. I finally realize this now. I respect myself finally. I'm not just going to give myself to anybody who wants me or give my attention and time. I have to set boundaries now and take care of me and my energy and not just go please everyone to the point of exhaustion or potentially like not being able to leave the house. I want to please my granddaughter. Look what I did. Right? So, and then, you know, he said I was never gonna go anywhere, or I was going nowhere. And I'm like, you know what? Sometimes we're really like this nowhere, right? Like I'm going nowhere. I'm just sitting here, I'm stuck, right? But when you reframe that one, I'd love to be nowhere, because I'm now and I'm here, which is present, which is where we're all supposed to be, right? When you go into the past, you become anxious, depressed, you start thinking about things, you're all wound up. That's in the past. It's written in stone. It doesn't define you. This moment defines you. And what you do after this moment, the future is an unwritten book. We can do whatever we want. Once you believe that like there's limitless possibilities, all of a sudden all possibilities become limitless. And you get to see that your imagination is your best gift. It's like some days I dress up as Wonder Woman or Harley Quinn, and it's not because I want to be them. I'm embracing that archetype to go out into the day, and I'm finding my own voice through these other things, right? Like just dressing up and just like, you know, I'm shy. I don't like to talk to people. I've got agoraphobia. I rarely leave my house. I've got PTSD from my military service. But when I go out dressed up like that, somebody will say something, and it can be a teachable moment. I had my Wonder Woman dress on one day, and some girl was like, oh, what, you think you're a superhero? And I was like, no, actually, I'm a veteran with PTSD, and I'm just reminding myself that I can be my own superhero. And she's like, her eyes just open, and I was like, sometimes like it can be that teachable moment. Even with my dog, she's in training, but I get a lot of kids will ask me questions, well, you're not blind. And I'm like, well, some people can't leave their house. I said, she allows me to be able to go out, leave my house, interact with people. I said, I probably wouldn't talk to you two at all if I didn't have her. I just hide. I didn't think I could take up space. I just learned last week that I'm allowed to take up space, right? Like, I'm on this evolution of journey. Like, every single day I'm getting hit with this stuff, and I'm like, wow, like, I didn't know becoming myself would be a 365, 7-day-a-week, 24-hour-a-day job, and it's the hardest job I ever had. I realized that that's how they keep you tied up in, like, your box, because you can't think about you when you got everything else to worry about, right? And I've met these beautiful women, and I wanted to use my story. I know my story is not any different than most people. There's a lot of people that have went through the trauma I've had, but I choose to use my story to empower other people to either get up and tell their story or begin their healing journey. Because sometimes it just takes that one person that you hear to click in and think, she could do it, maybe I can, right? I heard this guy he was at war and he got all his limbs blown off, and he was like talking, putting the Marines down. He's like, if the Marine could do it, I can do it, right? So like, I just feel like, I had such a little value of myself. If I could do it with that little value, anybody can get up and they can empower other people with what they've gone through. I found a lot these days. I'm working with my inner child. So children, I learn from them every single day. I go around them and I'm just full of wonder. This morning, I was so nervous. I'm like, we're eating breakfast. And there was this little beautiful girl sitting there. And she had blonde braids and it was sticking out. And she was just so cute. And she reminded me of me. And she's eating her food. She's got her like spoon hanging out. And I'm like sitting there going, that's innocence. That's love. That's what I want to hold on to always. Right? That innocence, that love. Because that is what's going to heal the world. Not war, not division, not all of that. Coming together and accepting each other for who we are. Everybody has flaws. You don't act inappropriate unless you're hurting. I don't scream obscenities at people unless I've been hurt in some way. And yeah, I got a dragon lady inside of me that when she comes out, she's not very nice. I try to keep her hidden, but sometimes I get to that point and it's like a volcano and it comes out and erupts. But now I'm also realizing that, like, through my trauma, there's different parts of me. And so, I've got this little tiny girl that's abandoned and rejected and lost, but she's also very creative and adventurous. Then I've got coming into my wise 50-year-old where I'm transmuting my knowledge into wisdom. Then I got this angry 19-year-old standing in the middle of them going, screw with either of these and I'm gonna fuck you up, right? Sorry for my vulgar language, I'm sorry, I'm a veteran, I swear. Especially when I'm nervous. But, now that I know, I can kind of look and when I'm going through emotions, say, where am I at right now? And then I know where those emotions are coming from. Because as an almost 50-year-old, there's no way I would yell obscenities at anyone and get mad. So if I'm doing that, someone has set off the 19-year-old. So I need to talk to her and say, yo, what's going on? Why is the armor on? Take it off. We don't need to be clean bitch right now, right? So it's reframing everything and processing it. And this is the hardest thing I've ever done, but it is so worth it. And to learn about me and to be able to look in the mirror and say, you're pretty badass most days, right? I have them out most days because I'm not all the way there yet. I'm still on a journey, right? So I'm a queen. Some days I'm an angry princess, and at least I acknowledge it. So acknowledging it and having the awareness of it will allow me to at least break that cycle. And that's what I'm trying to do in my story, is break some cycles. Like my mom, she had a very traumatic past. I didn't even know about it until later. So then I had mine, it actually reminded her. Now I know we didn't get along because my trauma reminded me of her trauma. It was like this friction. But at the same time now, I realize I have a granddaughter. If I choose to empower myself, get my life going, maybe her dad will, and then she has a chance at a future. She may not end up in that cycle of abusive men, thinking she's not worthy, thinking she's less than, not valued. She may go and do whatever she wants just because she finally knows she can. I was born into a time where they still put those restrictions, like, you're a girl, you can't do that, right? Now, I'm trying, even I do Remembrance Day speeches, and I tell all those kids, you can be whoever you want to be. And being yourself and finding out who you are is actually the absolute best. Stop the people pleasing and find you inside there. And like Charlotte said, that little voice, you have to find it and listen. They're really smart in there if you can learn how to listen. So I would like to thank everyone today, and thank you for the opportunity, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you, John. Thank you, John.